Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast, subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
We will not be defeated. What's going on, guys, and welcome to your Winged Eagle podcast for what is now August 21st, 2022, instead of August 20th, 2022, as we attempted to do yesterday. Thank you so much to everyone for being here today. Kind of a double feature Sunday. You're going to get a whole lot of me this afternoon. We're here for the podcast, and then later on tonight, in just a couple of hours, we're going to be watching SummerSlam 2000 together. And I did not want to be defeated by this podcast. I absolutely refused to cancel it outright. I was like, we're going to come up here and do it today because it's a matter of principle. And I just would not let it beat me. But I think we're good to go now. Thank you to everyone who was here yesterday, very patient as we began the podcast and we started experiencing those little interruptions that we've kind of been having over the past couple of weeks on the channel. They never last very long. They're only a few seconds, but yesterday was the worst it's ever been. I literally couldn't get 2 sentences out before it happened again. So as we suffered through about 45 minutes of that, I just said, forget it. We're just going to cancel the podcast. I got to go to work, and I was going to make it my life's mission when I got home last night to figure out what exactly was going on. And I believe I have found the problem. It was never the internet. I never thought it was the internet because we don't have any internet problems here. Internet stays strong and stays on. Even when we have the YouTube interruptions, I can still be on the internet. Something is going on between YouTube and OBS. And I bought my computer, the one I used primarily for streaming, I think in the summer of 2019. So it's 3 years old now, and I have not done any updates to OBS at all. So after making sure that the internet is about as strong as we can get it, we have super strong internet, everything else is fine. We got a really big powerhouse computer. All of our equipment is great. I realized that maybe OBS, the streaming software, needs an update. So I updated that. When that happened, that made all of the drivers obsolete. So then I had to go reinstall all the drivers. Took me about 3 hours to kind of get everything nice. And I tested several times last night. Everything seemed to be fine. Every YouTube tutorial I watched or anything I looked up online or read about how to handle this problem looks like I have it all completely under control at this point. There's really nothing else that should knock us off because we got good shit here. So I think I figured it out, and I, again, apologize for yesterday. You guys are great. Almost 100 people here in the audience already, and I really don't know what kind of an audience we're going to have today. I don't care if anybody is here. It's just a matter of principle, me doing this damn podcast so we can talk about everything, because yesterday was frustrating. It sucks having to go to work when this shit's on your mind. I'm like, man, usually I go to work on Saturdays feeling great because we busted out a good podcast, feel good and accomplished. Then I go to work. I get to come home and chill and reflect on a nice, long, productive day. And yesterday sucked because I had to go to work and work a busy night while this shit was on my mind, and it was driving me crazy. So I could not wait to come home, resolve it, get back in front of the camera, talk to you guys about the week in wrestling and all of the backstage turmoil that apparently is going on in AEW and everything going on with CM Punk and Hangman Page. We're going to talk about All Out. We're going to talk about Clash at the Castle. We'll talk a little bit about Friday's SmackDown, but this is going to be a little bit more of a condensed version than what I had planned yesterday. Yesterday, I thought I'd be up here for 2 solid hours. Today, we're going to keep it to about an hour and a half, and really just talk about the meat and potatoes AEW drama, so I can give you guys a little hour and a half or 2 hour breather before we come back up here and watch SummerSlam 2000 tonight. The link is in the description to that. Or the link to that is in the description, right now. You can go down there and click it, save it for later on. I apologize for going head-to-head with what I believe is the Edge A&E biography. And I think it's Ray and Eddie rivals tonight, so apologize for going head-to-head with that. But that's what we do on Watch Along Sundays. We come up here at the same time every week, and football games and sporting events and A&E biographies are just going to have to take a back seat to us. So hopefully you guys can join us for SummerSlam 2000. We go live tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to take a look at a show that I was at. I attended SummerSlam 2000 in Raleigh. I had great seats for the show and had a blast in the arena that night. So I will be sharing with you this evening some of my memories while I kick back and relax and have a beer to celebrate what I hope is a successful podcast today with no interruptions. So there you go. There's my intro, my apology, everything from yesterday. And based on the little video that I uploaded yesterday, about 2 minutes long, apologizing, explaining what happened, the love you guys showed me in the comments meant a lot. You're like, brother, don't worry about it. Oh, shit happens. Fucking shake it off. Good mic work. I need to hear that stuff. That was really good. So I appreciate everybody being cool, because I really, really pride myself. If I'm going to be on YouTube, I want to provide quality shit to you and give you guys good quality, high quality stuff to look at. But when I started taking YouTube seriously, I researched what kind of equipment I should buy, how strong of a computer do I need. I got a computer strong enough for gaming, and I don't even game. I wanted to make sure I had good connections, good audio, good visuals, all that stuff. So whenever we have problems, it frustrates the fuck out of me. So anyway, we are here now to take care of this. I'm going to say hi to everybody in the chat. Then we're going to start jumping in to our wrestling news and get through this. And like I said, we'll probably wrap up this podcast in the next 90 minutes. To give you guys a little breather, and I'm going to have a bite to eat and get myself all situated before we kick back and relax tonight for SummerSlam 2000. I have not done one sound check yet. All that stuff sounds good. I can see myself. I can hear myself. That's what matters. I want to thank everybody that are in the chat here waiting for us. I'm going to unpin this message so I can see everybody. I also want to thank 2 brand new channel members that came in yesterday while we were dealing with our bullshit. Ronnie, my homeboy Ronnie, you're the man, good buddy of mine as well. Another homie, Spaz Phoenix. Go check out Spaz's YouTube channel. Yesterday, during all the bullshit, they both became channel members, and I'm going to re-shout out all of the channel members now, because when I was trying to do that yesterday, we were getting interrupted, and you guys deserve some love. The channel has just recently launched the memberships just a couple of weeks ago. We already had a ton of people signing up, which was awesome, and you can do that now by clicking the join button below this video, or down in the description, there's a link right there in case you're on a device. That'll take it over to you. Several different tiers if you would like to join and support, but there's no pressure. You just watch this video, give me your subscription, and give this video a like, and you got a happy podcast host on the other side. But you do have the option to become a member if you would like, and next month, since we just kicked off the membership program, we're going to wait until next month until a full month gets going and we get as many members in as possible. Then we're going to start the members only videos. We're going to do monthly watch alongs. We'll do some Q&As, and the more members we add, the more members only content we will get. So the more the list grows, the more special perks and videos I'm going to provide to you guys, but none of that stuff is really going to kick off until mid-September. So keep that in mind, and if you would like to join, you can do that below. But I want to thank Spaz and Ronnie, who just joined yesterday. Also want to thank Nicole Lenzing for becoming a family member. Marcus the Entertainer, Nikita Abalakin, Divine Ricks is here as well. Deshaun Robinson, Zane G, Chris Barrera, Michael Cuomo, John J.E. Dennett, Tatanani, Nick Musser, K-Dogs Kennel, Kevin, awesome. Thank you for joining, my friend. Max Pokebra, Spectra, Zach Palgett, Red Raven Rucker, Reese Jones, Ian Dunn, Victor Cologne, Isaac, George Morris, Stephen Taylor, Population 420, and JJ Legg. I appreciate you guys joining and becoming the first 26 members of the channel. Very awesome that you guys have joined, and I appreciate that. And I also want to do a special thank you to all of my Shoot brothers: Divine Ricks, Michael Cuomo, Nick Musser, Spectre, Reese Jones, Victor Cologne, and George Morris. So far, you guys are the highest tiered members, and I want to thank you for that, my brothers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, other than that, let me just cruise over here to the chat, see if there's a super chat or two to answer, and then we'll get into stuff. I did purposely want to kind of shoot the shit for about 10 or 15 minutes today, just to make sure that we're all good to go, but I'm eyeballing my green light. Everything seems to be strong, and I think that software update and the driver update did the trick. So, thank God. Anywho, let me say hi to everybody that was hanging out here, like Stephen Taylor, JJ Legg, Red Raven Rucker. Good to see all of my family members in the house, and Monkey Wrenches too. Nick Musser, J Max, Sam. We've got Muhammad in the house. Thank you, my friend, for the well wishes. Who's here? Oh, look at there. I'm here with 2 comments. Good Mike Work Commentaries. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. We've got Zelius, Zane, and Andy all in the house. Zane G, good to see you, my friend. Monkey Wrench and channel member. Tomas Iridia, thank you for the $5. Is it just me, or is AEW getting a little boring? Outside the world title drama, there seems to be nothing going on interesting, and some angles are dumb. I don't find AEW boring. I think AEW has its problems, but in terms of what they're doing right now, I think things are about as interesting as they've ever been in the company, and that's largely in part due to the backstage drama. But there's a lot of good things on the horizon too. They've got TV deal negotiations coming up over the next couple of months, so they're going to be putting the pedal to the metal in terms of delivering good content and trying to maximize their ratings. We know MJF is set to come back at some point, and when he does, that'll be a big deal. Whatever the hell they're going to do this Wednesday with Punk and Moxley should set the table for what the future might look like. And I think right now WWE is getting all the press because, as we've been praising, very highly praising Triple H since he took over, and the reason we've been praising him here on the channel is because anything better than Vince or anything other than Vince is going to be better. It can't not be better. And Triple H already has a track record from NXT. Most fans like his philosophy and his way of thinking, but you know, there is a honeymoon period here with Triple H, and there are going to be some fans who are going to turn on him eventually. And once things get going and he's in this position of power for 6 months, a year, and then we get some shitty Raws, all of a sudden Triple H is not going to be so great. You watch, it's going to happen. So I think right now WWE's dominating a lot of the the buzz because of Triple H, and AEW has got a lot of headlines this week because of the CM Punk stuff. But I think WWE's kind of got the momentum right now. But in terms of AEW's on-air product. I don't find it boring at all. As a matter of fact, I thought Quake by the Lake was one of the best Dynamites they'd ever done. Last week was very good. Watch Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia and tell me that wasn't one of the best matches you've seen all year. So I don't think that they're boring at all. I actually am quite entertained by them. But they still are the number 2, and they're going to be forever the number 2. So as long as they accept that and not try to overthrow WWE like Ted Turner did, AEW is going to be just fine, and they're not going to go anywhere. Also want to thank Deshaun Robinson and Spaz. Who's first? Spaz. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other ones. I hate it when I miss ones. Spaz, thank you very much, my family member, for that extra $10 super chat. Hey, I'm in the family. Cheers, Greg, Kat, and chat. Dynamite review went up super late this week. Next Triple H era episode goes up tomorrow before I head to Raw. So head on over to Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel, show him some love, check out his videos, and make sure you subscribe over there. To our family, Deshaun Robinson, good to see you, man. Appreciate that $5. I will always appreciate someone who is passionate about his work and his supporters. Greg, you are awesome. Thank you, man. Well, you know, if you're giving me your time, I want to give you something worth your time. That's just kind of the way I look at it. So I appreciate Deshaun and all you guys being here as always. How Wheezy has joined the family. Shoot brother. You're my shoot brother anyway, dude. Even without joining, you're still my shoot brother. Hi, Wheezy. Glad you're here, man. He is a great friend of the channel and a great supporter. Glad you have joined up with us. Right on. Also want to say hi to Sleeping Angels, Howard Starr, Robert Dinkins, and anybody else I missed. Jay Hamster. We got Alex freaking Bryant, Talvish, maybe a few others that I missed, but we need to be getting into business today because, like I said, it's double feature Sunday, and if I'm going to be streaming for a while, I don't need to be dragging my feet. So let's get into stuff here. And, of course, we are going to start with the CM Punk AEW Hangman Page turmoil, whatever's going on there. Yesterday, excuse me. Yesterday, when we attempted the podcast, I opened the show by saying what a difference a year makes, because yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of CM Punk making his return to professional wrestling, showing up on AEW Rampage in front of that sold-out United Center crowd. One of the coolest things that I have seen this century in terms of wrestling. The ovation that he got, the energy, the passion, the emotion from the fans, the emotion from CM Punk, what he said in the promo, having him back after that long of an absence was a great feeling, and it really made you excited for pro wrestling because this is basically the biggest professional wrestling name not signed to any promotion that fans have been speculating on the return of for 8 years, and he comes back to a promotion that's not WWE, that's also on cable, also based here in North America. That is a huge deal, and they're selling out arenas that, you know, WWE hasn't even sold out in recent years. So that's impressive, man. And it was just a great feeling to have him back and to feel that as a wrestling fan. I'm like, wow, for the first time in 21 years, about 21 years, 20 years, we have two huge promotions here. And now when you look in the last just few weeks, we have two promotions here, both doing relatively good shit too. Now that Vince is gone and Triple H has taken over, fans have really upped their confidence in WWE. They're a lot more optimistic and a lot more willing and eager to actually sit down and watch Raw and SmackDown because good shit might actually happen. And AEW, I think, has been hitting pretty good ever since they've started. You know, a few hiccups here or there, but for the most part, I've been entertained as hell by what I watch on Wednesday nights. So it's a great feeling to have that, but now you fast forward 1 year. Excuse me, tickle in my throat. You fast forward 1 year and things might be a lot different now. The honeymoon phase with CM Punk and AEW could very well be over. Now, there's so much to get into here in terms of this monster story that I don't even know where to start. So why don't we start with Dynamite? Last Wednesday on Dynamite, we all watched it together, right? We're watching CM Punk come out to cut his promo, and the first thing he does is call out Hangman Page. Hangman Page, you want a rematch? Come and get it right now. Lays the belt down and then says, that's not cowboy shit, that's coward shit. And I guess we didn't think much of it at the time. I'm like, well, that's weird. He's not feuding with him at the moment. He's feuding with Moxley. I'm sure Hangman's got a rematch coming up at some point after losing it to Punk at Double or Nothing. Had Punk not gotten hurt, that rematch probably already would have happened. So I kind of looked at it like that. Okay, maybe Punk's just reminding us, and AEW's reminding us that, Hangman is still not done with his quest for regaining the title. But Hangman didn't come out because he wasn't supposed to come out. Apparently, that was not scripted. Right after the show, I think it was Meltzer and Brian Alvarez had said that was not part of the promo. And what Punk did by calling out Hangman Page was in response to some bitter feelings that Punk had over comments that Hangman made in their build during Double or Nothing. A couple of promos, one specifically apparently that happened on May 4th that CM Punk was not in the building for. This was some bad feelings and heat that had basically lasted all the way up until this point, and they claimed that what Punk did was basically Hangman's receipt for saying whatever CM Punk didn't like. So we'll talk about what was possibly said in those promos in a minute. But let's get back to Dynamite. He calls out Hangman Page. Hangman doesn't come out, and he calls him a coward. Then he shifts his attention to Jon Moxley. He calls Jon Moxley the third best member in his group, referring to the Shield. He called Eddie Kingston the third best Eddie he's ever been in the ring with and the second best Kingston that he's ever shared a locker room with, which was a great line. And Mox then comes out. They get in each other's face. Mox has some pretty biting words to say back to Punk, calling him, saying that he isn't even the best wrestler in catering most of the time. So a little barking back and forth. Finally, they start brawling, some pretty terrible looking punches, and there's kind of like a pull apart. And then later on in the show, during, I forgot what match was about, I think Tony Nese was coming out to the ring. Jon Moxley jumps Tony Nese from behind, attacks him, goes in the ring and wants CM Punk to come out and fight him, and Punk does, and there's like another pull apart. And you basically just think you're building heat for what is probably going to be the all-out main event, CM Punk versus Jon Moxley for the undisputed AEW title, because both guys are walking around carrying AEW championships right now. So we're all assuming that's going to be the main event. And then right before the end of the show, I think it's right before the main event, as Excalibur is rattling off all the shit we're going to see in the next couple of shows, they just punch us right in the face with the blockbuster announcement that Jon Moxley is going to face CM Punk next Wednesday, this Wednesday, in 4 fucking days for the undisputed AEW title. They're doing it on TV. What? So then we watch the main event and the show goes off the air. I kept the cameras rolling that night of the watch along and recorded an exclusive mic drop and put it up on the channel, speculating why they would have made this match on TV instead of at the pay-per-view. But I did so before even knowing about the Hangman drama. So without even knowing any of that, there was any heat, there was any drama, anything like that at all going on backstage. Everything in my mind was hunky fucking dory. So all I'm trying to do is figure out why they would do this. And in my mind, I was thinking that, well, most fans expected CM Punk to resume his run when he came back from the injury. As a matter of fact, Tony Khan basically said the same thing. Tony Khan created the interim title in lieu of stripping CM Punk. He did not want to do it. In the media scrum, he sat right next to him and told everybody that he's the reason that AEW is here and the reason AEW exists, and, basically anointed him and crowned him, this king and life-saving wrestler of the company right in front of everybody on the media scrum. Maybe hugging wrestlers isn't such a good idea, because when the rest of the talent sees that, they're like, wait a minute, I'm pretty fucking good too. So Tony Khan feels like he's publicly made it known that he is invested and supports CM Punk 100% and has plans to run with him. So if CM Punk's foot is healthy, he's good, he's 100%, he can resume his title run, and Tony Khan plans on staying with Punk anyway, why are you going to make fans pay $50 to watch a match that we already know the outcome of? I'll still pay $50 to see the match because I think the match is kind of intriguing. These guys do go back a long way, about 10 years now, maybe even before that, maybe even some FCW days. And of course, the Shield came in originally as a way to shield CM Punk until the directions changed. And they've had a few matches on Raw when Ambrose was a member of the Shield. So they have history, and to see them where they are now, Punk in this position and Moxley being who he is, and both of them being very, very good on the mic and not afraid to, really let it all hang out. I'm intrigued in the match. I think the match is very cool. So I would be fine if the match took place on All Out. But for them to do it on Dynamite, my biggest speculation is like, well, Tony Khan kind of made it known that he is invested and wants to go with Punk as champion. So if we already know Punk's going to walk out of this match with a belt, let's just do it on TV. That way Punk can have a fresh opponent at All Out. But it might be the opposite. I mean, there's a very good possibility, as we'll talk about here in a minute, that with all of this Punk drama and whatever's going on, that Tony Khan does not want to find himself in a situation that he found himself in at Double or Nothing with MJF, where you have to worry about one of your biggest matches even happening. And then what did they do? They got that match over with in the opening. It was the curtain jerker. They opened the show with it. Wardlow came out, squashed MJF, and that was the end of it. So maybe Tony Khan doesn't want to have to do something rash like that on pay-per-view. And maybe because of all of this drama that's going on behind the scenes, Tony Khan is maybe panicking and saying, I need to get the belt off of CM Punk. There was also, as we'll read in this Fightful Select article that I'll read to you later, there were some members of AEW that believed there was a chance that CM Punk could no-show the August 17th Dynamite. I personally don't think Punk would do that, but apparently there was enough, fear or speculation going around that was actually a possibility. So if that's even close to possible, or if CM Punk said privately to Tony Khan or did any sort of threatening as to, I might not show up for this event, or I don't want to be here, or I'm going to, resist or fight anything that they might have planned, maybe Tony Khan has done a 180 on Punk. Maybe all of a sudden he's not the savior of the company, and Tony Khan's just going to get the belt off of CM Punk this Wednesday. There's a very good chance that Jon Moxley can walk out of Dynamite on Wednesday as the undisputed champion. I would not rule that out. I've been of the belief that ever since CM Punk got injured, he'd resume his title run when he got back. But excuse me, maybe AEW and Tony Khan doesn't want to be that predictable, so they would have changed things up that way. But with the drama that we're all reading about behind the scenes, this might be Tony Khan's way of just getting the belt off of CM Punk so he can at least have his championship back and his championship is stable. Because I'll tell you what, Jon Moxley is incredibly well liked backstage. I think Jon Moxley is probably the opposite of CM Punk based on on everything that we've heard. There's a very good possibility, as the way some of these reports sound, that CM Punk is reverted back, I should say, to his old ways. He was a pain in the ass in the WWE locker room too. Many feel rightfully so. I kind of do feel like rightfully so, but this is a guy that's always stood up for what he believes in, and he also can act like a huge fucking asshole. Everybody knows that. We've all known that about CM Punk. He has a terrible backstage reputation. Always has. The dude has falling outs with literally everyone. We'll talk about the Colt Cabana stuff here later, but even regular people excuse me. Even regular people in his life, he constantly has these falling outs or these issues. He seems to have a very short fuse with people. I remember watching a shoot interview with Hornswoggle, and he said that they're not friends anymore because Hornswoggle, it was just a really silly misunderstanding involving a phone number. Like, Swoggle passed off Punk's phone number that he thought he got permission to pass off, and then Punk was mad, and then he never talked to him again. So sometimes, CM Punk just has, he's got no filter. He's got no forgiveness at all in his heart. He seems to be betrayed by the littlest things. I can't believe his marriage has held up this long. But he seems to constantly have these falling outs, these issues, these dramas, and these problems with other pieces of talent throughout the years. So this is really nothing new with CM Punk. So based on everything he said, it looked, on Wednesday anyway, it kind of looked like CM Punk went in the heel direction. And that's what I like, because that really opens up the door. If CM Punk is going to be heel, that really opens up the door for a lot of fun stuff, especially with MJF. So, pardon me. Excuse me. Sorry, man, I don't know what's going on with my throat. But based on CM Punk's comments on Wednesday, him going heel would be so fun because you could do so many things with that. Plus, you already have all of the buzz going around this week online about CM Punk, about his behavior, about whatever's going on with him and Tony Khan and AEW and Hangman Page. This can feed right into a CM Punk heel turn. And if they do that on Wednesday, that would be great. If they do that at All Out, that would be great. You know something's going to happen with the AEW title at All Out, so it's very possible they could do some sort of a schmoz ending on Wednesday and rebook the match at All Out, or they can add a third person, making it a triple threat, or they can just do the match on Wednesday, have one guy be champion going into All Out to face somebody else, but you don't have a ton of time now to put a new opponent and insert a new opponent into the title match at All Out that would really make any sense other than one particular guy. And I think we all know who that particular guy is. And what a full circle deal that would be, is if CM Punk goes heel and babyface MJF comes back to beat him for the title. Wouldn't that be some shit? It's going to be hard to make MJF, I think, a babyface based on how he left, but there's definitely, and there always, I think, has been plans to revisit MJF and CM Punk, because even in LA, when MJF cut that pipe bomb and left, wasn't it CM Punk that came out? I think the cameras were even off. I don't think the cameras were rolling for any of this. But CM Punk came out during the commercial break and tried to talk to MJF and get him to come back. And, you know, that right there was a little tease that those two aren't finished with each other. So I think it would be really crazy this fall if we get a heel CM Punk versus a babyface MJF feud. That would be crazy. But MJF is such a good heel. I'm not sure if I'm in any rush to see him turn heel or turn babyface, but he could tie into that as well. So that pretty much covers Dynamite, what was said on Dynamite with Hangman, and what was done between Punk and Moxley, and then, of course, the announcement that the title match will be taking place this Wednesday. So that's what we know now. So that was shocking enough. Then, on Thursday, we start reading all of these reports about what exactly is going on in AEW, and there were several different reports. Now, the first one was as it related to CM Punk's promo, and it was Meltzer and Alvarez that confirmed that that was not part of the script. He went off script there, and he called out Hangman Page, knowing that Hangman couldn't come out and do anything about it because he wasn't booked for the segment. He wasn't supposed to come out there, so he purposely did it to make Hangman look like a coward. This was some sort of a receipt for some comments that Hangman Page would have made during their build to Double or Nothing. But if you go back and watch all of those promos between Hangman and Punk, nothing was really said. Even the promo on May 4th, I didn't see anything or don't recall anything in those promos that Hangman said that would have been so offensive to CM Punk. Go back and watch the CM Punk and Eddie Kingston promos. Eddie said far worse shit to CM Punk than anybody I think ever has in wrestling. So I don't know what it is about Hangman Page and what was really said. And there was a lot of speculation about what it could have been. And maybe there was some coded language in one of these promos that directly referred to something that was just a sore spot for CM Punk. And I think one of the promos, it wasn't the one on May 4th, but Hangman said something, it might have been the week before or the week after. And I think that he said something like to Punk's face, like, what makes you a champion is not in front of the camera, but it's how you act backstage. Even the quiet moments when you think no one is watching. So that might be him alluding to the pretty well-known fact that CM Punk is just a piece of shit backstage. He just is always just super abrasive, and he rubs people the wrong way. I've never been backstage with CM Punk. CM Punk seems to be deliriously happy in AEW. I can't imagine him walking around there bitter and angry all the time and burnt out like he probably was in WWE when he was putting up with years of nonsense that was just boiling over. This motherfucker has had 8 years off. He came back and had one of the best years in wrestling. The feuds that he's had, he defeated Darby Allin, he defeated Eddie Kingston, he defeated MJF in that great program, and then he beat Hangman Page for the title. What the fuck is this guy complaining about? So if this is some sort of a respect thing and he's got an issue with Hangman Page or took issue with something that Hangman Page said and that was his receipt, that's fine, but I think that's something that's better handled behind the scenes, not out in front of the camera, because it also makes your boss look bad. If CM Punk respects Tony Khan as much as Tony Khan respects him, CM Punk going out there and doing that gives some people the impression that Tony Khan doesn't have a grasp on his employees. You have to have people that are fearful to go out there and do something like that. You think anybody would ever done that to Vince? I don't think anybody would do that to Triple H. Well, I guess some have gone off script a little bit. But that's, CM Punk probably has the idea in his head that he's bulletproof because of his boss who just devoted his love to him live on a media scrum. You know, like if you're trying to get a girl's attention, or you're trying to court somebody, or you're, pursuing somebody in a relationship, don't smother them. They're going to run away. I promise you. So CM Punk now might realize that he's in the driver's seat in this relationship. Tony Khan loves me. He's all about me. He's all about making me happy, which means I can control him. So that's what can happen in relationships when you have a lopsided thing going on there. And that can be men or women. So Tony Khan doing that, I don't know how smart that was, because now CM Punk is going out and taking these liberties on the mic when he shouldn't be. That's unprofessional, if you ask me. If CM Punk really had a problem with what Hangman Page said, it's been 3 months. Why didn't you text him? Why didn't you talk to him backstage? Hey, man, let's hash this out. Let's go behind closed doors. Let's get on the same page here. I didn't, no pun intended, I didn't appreciate what you said. Here's why. And work it out like men. I mean, CM Punk, he did the punchy face, right? He's a trained fighter. Most people in the AEW locker room probably think they can take Punk in a fight. Page probably does. I wouldn't automatically just put all my money on CM Punk if those two got into actual fist fight. I think it might be a little closer than people think. So I don't know why Punk would go this route in terms of dealing with this issue. It seems like the more stand-up thing to do is to confront and discuss this with Hangman behind the scenes, unless it's already past that point, unless there's so much anger there that getting behind closed doors and having a meeting isn't going to solve anything. Punk's angry. He feels like he needs to, bark back a little bit or give Hangman Page a receipt or whatever. And another possible reason for this could be the relationship between CM Punk and Colt Cabana. And that's what some people, and Meltzer also said that was kind of the catalyst. That's what got all of this started, is that Colt Cabana, some were of the belief that when CM Punk came in, that he was trying to push Colt Cabana out. Now, CM Punk, when he came in a year ago, that was one of our biggest questions on the channel. Holy shit, he's going to AEW. Colt Cabana works in AEW. The two have had a very public falling out that has involved court. They were, one of them was suing the other or something. They had some sort of court case over, I think it was the defamation lawsuit that came from the podcast and all that nonsense that went on. So they had a very public falling out. Don't exactly know what happened, but they were really good friends, and everybody seems to adore Colt Cabana. I've never heard a single person in the wrestling business say anything negative about Colt Cabana. The same cannot be said for CM Punk. We've heard plenty of people talk about the negative sides of CM Punk. So without me knowing jack shit about the situation, I would think that CM Punk probably, Colt Cabana didn't do anything that wrong. It was just enough for him to have a falling out with CM Punk or whatever happened there. So Colt Cabana working there and CM Punk getting signed there was very interesting to us, or to me. Now, it's not our place to speculate on their personal relationship, but after reading a lot of these reports and a lot of these stories that maybe Colt Cabana could be tied into this, and of course we all know Hangman Page is a member of the Dark Order. And when you're doing angles and you're involved with people on TV and storylines, you might develop personal relationships with these people. Maybe Hangman and Colt have gotten close. Now, Colt hasn't been on AEW TV in a while, hasn't been at TV for a while. Apparently, Tony Khan did sign him on to be a part of Ring of Honor, but he hasn't really been at very many tapings and hasn't been seen around. But that doesn't mean him and Hangman can't, or haven't developed some sort of a friendship. And then Hangman's got to work with CM Punk, and, maybe there's some internal stuff there that led to all of this. You wouldn't know that based on the Instagram post that CM Punk put up yesterday, which I'll read in a minute, but let's read this Fightful Select article first. Now, this was all the way back on Thursday. This is what they reported on Thursday, the day after Dynamite, the day after all of this happened. My plan was to read all of this to you yesterday. You guys have probably heard much of this, but I want to kind of go through this a couple paragraphs and address them each one because it's interesting stuff. So, Fightful Select, like I said, had an article on Thursday about this entire situation, and we're going to read some of it here. They say, I quote, CM Punk may have almost decided not to come to Dynamite last night. And they begin by saying Punk Defeated Hangman Page at Double or Nothing earlier this year before being forced away from the ring for several months. Before that, however, there was word that Punk and Hangman Page didn't see eye to eye on some promo material that emerged on an episode of Dynamite that built their match at Double or Nothing. Fightful has been told that it was to the point that CM Punk met with AEW higher-ups about the context of Hangman Page's promo. Voices of Wrestling had noted that they'd heard that Punk had told others after the meeting in May that he wouldn't lose to Hangman Page. So that's just the first paragraph right there. That alludes to some promo during the Double or Nothing build that CM Punk got upset about. And when, like I said earlier, you go back and watch those promos, there was 3 or 4 of them, I believe. I don't find anything bad in them. I find what MJF and Eddie Kingston said to CM Punk far worse, and that's why there's got to be something between the lines. There's got to be some subtle, coded message that Hangman gave to Punk, and like I said, it could have been that line about being a champion is more than being in front of the camera. It's also how you carry yourself behind the scenes and, you know, the quiet moments when you think no one is watching. That's got to be what he's talking about. You know, because that's got to be tied in somehow. And like I said, there could definitely be a Colt Cabana tie-in there as well. Article goes on to say that Fightful was told by several within AEW that they felt the situation that unfolded on August 17th was unfair to Hangman Page if he wasn't aware of it, which is true. One said, quote, even if he was aware of it, what would he have done? Charged the ring past Tony Khan? Interrupted a promo he knew he wasn't supposed to be a part of? There was no way Hangman could have won in that situation, which I think is exactly why CM Punk did it. He knew that he could do it and it would make Hangman Page look like a coward when he didn't show up, when CM Punk called him out. And so it doesn't sound like Punk is endearing himself very much to some of the AEW locker room either. Goes on to say that we're told Hangman Page was in the building but haven't heard that he responded in any particular way. Those that we spoke to say that Hangman isn't a confrontational person and is generally well-liked among the roster. He is a great dude. I've heard all sorts of great things about Hangman Page. He's nice. He's polite, he's kind, he's good to fans. He was a blast on the Jericho Cruise. He's a good dude. So is Colt Cabana. So I can't imagine anybody having problems with these people. The Select article goes on to say the belief among several on the roster we spoke to was that Punk believed Hangman went into business for himself leading into their Double or Nothing match, and that Punk may have seen the August 17th promo as a receipt. It's important to note that locker room speculation at this. It's important to note that was locker room speculation as opposed to Punk telling anyone that directly. From Punk's end of things, there was a Hangman promo that alluded to Punk's issues with Colt Cabana, and that didn't sit well with Punk. And that's what I was trying to figure out. What line of dialogue in those promos was Hangman referring to, and what was said about Colt Cabana? I just couldn't find it when I went back and watched these. They said there was also another promo happened during the week where Punk wasn't at the show that accelerated it. They said that Punk's shot at Hangman happened with Hangman present, and that's how that person close to Punk justified it. Sources familiar with the situation claim that CM Punk has often verbally expressed his displeasure about things, including recently so blatantly that they thought he might end up quitting the company. Does that not blow your mind? That blows my mind. Those close to him said that he might have almost decided to stay home instead of coming to the August 17th Dynamite, but don't think he would have quit. We haven't been given any indication that he plans on leaving AEW, but one veteran said they have heard of, quote, threats being levied. And it just goes on to plug this week's title match on Dynamite. So seeing and reading something like CM Punk is so upset that he might quit the company and might no-show. This is the world champion. This is a guy who came in a year ago in probably one of the most glorious returns pro wrestling has ever fucking seen. He came out on top of every program he was in. Like I said, the most notable ones, I believe, were Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, and MJF. Then he took on Hangman Page, a guy that the company's been doing a great job building his legacy. They gave him the world title, made him one of their first world champions ever, and then Punk just flat out and beats him for it. And then Punk gets hurt, injures himself, an injury that he caused himself. Tony Khan, his boss, still does not want to take the title away from him. And only 3 years into the company, he's already created an interim situation just so he doesn't have to strip his favorite. And Punk's mad about this? All of this great treatment, the money he's making, the programs that he's come out on top of, how strongly he's been booked, and he's your world champion after an 8-year break, and a promo is what's going to set you off? I mean, I'm putting myself in a wrestler's shoes. If somebody says something in a promo that really pisses me off, I'm not going to quit because of it, especially if I'm treated well and I'm the top guy in the company. I'm just going to deal with the situation. Maybe that's what Punk has been doing by complaining and whining backstage to anybody who will listen about this. But I think it would have been better resolved for Tony Khan just to say, fuck this, you, 3 of us in this room now. We're not leaving until this is worked out or one of you is no longer working here. Like, I would just nip it in the fucking bud. Now, Vince McMahon, back in the day, we always heard he thrives on this stuff. He likes his talent, or he used to anyway. Maybe not now, or maybe not in modern WWE. But Vince liked for his people to, and his wrestlers to have heat because it would drive them and push them to be better. I just don't think the wrestling landscape is really designed for that anymore. And I think that nowadays when you have heat, you can have, unprofessional things happen like we saw on Wednesday with CM Punk coming out and saying that. So if Hangman was unprofessional first and then this was his receipt, and Punk views that as an old school way of just saying, we're done with it now, because that's what you do if you potato somebody, you get potatoed by them in the next match, and then it's over. So maybe CM Punk is looking at it like that. Page pissed him off. He gave him his receipt. It's under the bridge. We can move on. But now Page has got a real reason to be upset too, because, Hangman Page is, somebody that's also a star in wrestling, and to be blatantly made to look like a fool on TV when you can't run out there and punch him in his mouth, because then he would have been in trouble. That would have just fucked everything up. He really was in a lose-lose situation on Wednesday, and that kind of sucks. So my gut tells me that this is CM Punk being CM Punk. Like I said, the evidence does not match here, because CM Punk has been treated remarkably, at least on TV and AEW. Maybe things are a nightmare backstage, but I don't think so. I've always thought heard that things were pretty good backstage, but we'll talk about later how that might not be the case anymore as well. But CM Punk's been treated very well. Why and how he can get this angry about shit, I'll never know. But it might really be stemming from the Colt Cabana stuff. It was an ugly breakup between those two. There were lawsuits involved, and if something's going on there, that might be, just something that CM Punk considers off limits or very touchy or sore subject or raw nerve for him or whatever the case is. He got pissed, and there's all sorts of turmoil now. So like I said, we will find out what happens this Wednesday. We're going to be watching Dynamite all together, and we'll see what happens. I think this is a perfect place to bring back MJF. If he shows up and attacks both guys and lays them out, and then maybe we do a triple threat match or something at All Out. But I'm kind of hoping we walk out of AEW with a winner on Wednesday. I think that there's a really good chance that both of these guys could win. If this is all just going to be resolved and this is going to be part of CM Punk's heel persona going forward, then I hope that he sticks around in the company and he retains the title on Wednesday, and then perhaps has a match with MJF at All Out where maybe he drops the title to him or something like that if MJF makes his return on Wednesday. But one thing you got to look for on Wednesday, if Jon Moxley wins that title, that's going to be pretty telling, because that tells me that Tony Khan just wants to get the belt off of CM Punk, because the drama's not worth it. He needs his championship belt around the waist of a stable performer. This company is too young to lose its title. This company is too young to have a champion get pissed and leave and do what Ric Flair did to WCW in 1991. They're too young. They can't afford that to happen. Now, CM Punk would never do that. He wouldn't leave and take the AEW title to WWE. That's not happening. He can't even legally do that if he wanted to. But you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you've got an unstable champion who's not happy or disgruntled or whatever. You just got to get out of that situation. Maybe that's what Tony Khan is doing. So I'll be looking at the chat here in a minute to see what you guys have to say, and I'll catch up these super chats. But we will see what happens on Wednesday. It's going to be super interesting. By the way, we got a good audience, but really terrible likes. Can you guys do me a favor? Smash the thumbs up button for me and get those up. I would really, really appreciate it. But like I said earlier, CM Punk posted something interesting yesterday on Instagram commemorating his 1 year in AEW. And I quote, "1 year ago began the best year of my professional career. Too many great moments, not enough space to post all of the great pics. Rekindled passion, made new friends, reunited with old ones, can't stop smiling, won't stop until the wheels fall off. Thank you, most of all, to the fans who made it possible. I'm having the time of my life." And there's a drive into deep left field by Castellanos, and that'll be a home run, and so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. Know what's ironic about that Castellanos call is I believe yesterday was also the anniversary of that. It was like yesterday or Friday. Famous call, stupid announcer got busted with a hot mic saying a sexual slur or something like that. And when they came back from commercial, he's going through his apology right as a home run is hitting, and he starts calling the home run right in the middle of his apology. It's a classic clip. Look it up. And I believe the anniversary of that, like the 2 or 3 year anniversary, was just the other day as well. So it's funny that Punk mentioned that. But he went out of his way there to let everybody know that he's having the time of his life and he can't stop smiling. And he apparently is still very happy there, contrary to all of the reports that we've been reading about CM Punk. So there's more to this because Dave Meltzer confirmed in the latest Observer that backstage drama in AEW is close to its breaking point. Apparently, there is a little bit of turmoil going on behind the scenes now. I don't know if this has all been stemming from CM Punk and Hangman Page, and it's just gotten worse and it's spilled over into other talent. But it sounds like there is a little bit of issues with structure in AEW. I do know recently they did go through a bunch of promotions. They're trying to make that a little bit better for the talent in terms of communication. We have heard some complaints about communication and getting answers and getting things done in AEW. A lot of the same complaints we heard about WCW back in the day. And we had mentioned back then that Tony Khan really should delegate out some authority and have people have specific jobs and wear certain hats and be your go-to middlemen or whatever to have some structure there. And it looks like they're attempting to do that. But apparently they still do have a lot of backstage drama, and you do have some frustrated talent in terms of getting enough TV time because, as Tony Khan himself pointed out, AEW only has 3 hours of TV as compared to WWE 7, and you don't get to see everybody every week. I've never had a problem with that because I grew up during an era where sometimes I wouldn't see the Intercontinental Champion for a month. It's just the way it was. And even if you did see him, it would just be an interview. It would never be a match. Now, if one member of the roster is missing on Mondays or Fridays or something, everybody's on Twitter being like, where were they? And I'm like, it's okay to not work a show. I can be cool with you taking a week off. It's no problem. But fans are so accustomed to seeing every piece of talent every fucking week that they wonder where somebody is if they miss a week. And in AEW, you're seeing that now. Well, where in so-and-so? He hasn't wrestled in 3 weeks. I'm like, well, back in the day, that wouldn't have been a really weird thing. It's just a weird thing now. So there has been talk of frustrations behind the scenes, talent getting TV time or talent getting, questions answered or issues they might have getting resolved with Tony Khan. Apparently, this is boiling over and is really close to its breaking point, according to Meltzer. And if anybody is tied in and clued in to what's going on behind the scenes, it's Dave Meltzer. We know that. So if he's saying shit's bad, it's probably pretty bad. He also said that a lot of this drama began with Colt Cabana, who had not been seen on TV for a while, and he was going to be cut, apparently, until Tony Khan signed him to the Ring of Honor brand, and a lot of talent went to bat for Colt to stick around because he's incredibly well-liked in the locker room. So maybe some of that, along with CM Punk's behavior and Tony Khan clearly playing favorites. Colt Cabana is a guy that everybody wants in the locker room and everybody likes, but Tony Khan has got a close relationship with CM Punk. CM Punk is his champion right now, and maybe Tony Khan was like, okay, I will, if it makes you more comfortable, I won't re-sign Colt just to make the backstage experience as stress-free as possible, because it would be weird and would be really hard to work closely side by side with somebody that you've had such an ugly and traumatic relationship with. So maybe Khan was going to do that for Punk. The talent took exception to that. No, that's bullshit. This guy doesn't deserve to lose his job just because CM Punk's a snowflake. I can totally see people thinking that behind the scenes. So maybe you combine that with some talent being frustrated with TV time, or other talent being frustrated with trying to, get meetings with Tony Khan or discuss things with Tony Khan. You combine all of that with what's going on with CM Punk, and it has now created some turmoil behind the scenes. And that's pretty crazy because 6 months ago, I was under the impression that AEW was a good environment for wrestlers to go. It was a stress-free, much more laid-back type of environment. You were given much more creative freedom. Your schedule, of course, is extremely easy. Everybody, the management there is very likable. Tony Khan is likable. Where in WWE, it's tense, it's stressful, it sucks. It's being governed by a completely out-of-touch, senile lunatic, and it's the worst place in the world to be. And it seemed like everybody was looking at AEW as, the super green grass over there. Everybody's happy. They're singing Kumbaya. It's a great place to be. And I've been a big proponent of that just because in my line of work in restaurants and stuff, I cannot tell you how easy or how nice it is to have a job that you really love, that's stress-free, because I've also had jobs that are full of stress and that burn you out and that just make you so on edge, and you take your work home with you. As soon as you're done, you go home and you can't stop thinking about it, and it's just a nightmare. And that's no way to work. That's no way to live. So if anybody has a job where they actually don't hate going in there every day, and it's a more kind of laid back, more stress-free attitude and environment overall with the talent, that's where I would want to be. And it's so funny how quickly life changes and how fast things can change and turn, because now it seems like AEW's got the turmoil, and all of a sudden WWE is now all of a sudden not so bad of a place to go, because you don't have crazy Vince there. You got Triple H. You could still fall victim to WWE's machine, but at least you're going to have as good a chance as possible with Triple H. If Triple H can't make it work for you, it's probably not going to work for you. So all of a sudden now it's like, oh, maybe we'll go back there. Wrestlers seem to be a lot happier now. There's just a better overall morale and attitude behind the scenes, and AEW's got all the drama now. So it's crazy how things change. Hopefully AEW resolves all of this. They have too good of a talent roster, and they do too good of a job to let stupid shit like this bring them down. I think Tony Khan needs to get a handle on this. He needs to stand up and grow a set of fucking balls and stop trying to be friends with all of his wrestlers. Eric Bischoff made that mistake. It's another thing that I always laugh when Eric Bischoff is so critical of Tony Khan. I'm like, bitch, you are the biggest offender of every single thing that you're criticizing Tony Khan for doing. As a matter of fact, if AEW sticks around for, I believe, maybe 3 more years, Tony Khan will have surpassed Eric Bischoff in terms of time spent on top of your company. Bischoff got the executive producer promotion, I believe, in 93, and then was promoted again to senior vice president, which basically put him in charge of everything around 94. And he left WCW in 95 or maybe 2000, kind of came back in 2000 briefly, but he was with the gray hair, and then he almost bought it. So I think Eric Bischoff's total run on top of WCW was about 5 or 6 years max. Tony Khan's already in his 3rd. So sooner or later, Tony Khan's going to have surpassed Eric Bischoff in everything he did in his short time in WCW. But Eric Bischoff was always criticized and accused of trying to be one of the boys, trying to be cool like the NWO, and he was very tight with Hogan and Nash and Hall, and he did give those guys privileges that other wrestlers didn't get, with the contracts and the private dressing rooms and drinking beer before the show and all of that stuff. They could pretty much do whatever they wanted because they knew they had Eric in their back pocket. And you don't like that if you're another piece of talent that's not in Eric's back pocket. And that creates a lot of bad feelings, that creates drama, that creates heat, animosity, and shit like that in your locker room, to we're saying, hey, that's not fair. This guy's the boss, and he's in there, hobnobbing, with these guys and laughing and giggling and smoking cigars. These are your employees, man. You can't be doing that. So if Tony Khan is exhibiting some of this very same behavior, I can totally understand. Being a piece of talent, being a hard-working piece of talent, like a Kenny Omega or anybody else there that is, or a Hangman Page or anybody else there that's a big part of that company, to hear your boss say that CM Punk is the reason why we're here right now. I wouldn't like that either. I ain't going to lie. So as much as I love AEW, I got their back and got Tony Khan's back. I'm not going to fucking be blind to when I think mistakes are being made here. So I think that they need to really get a handle on this. This is not what you want. I think that AEW has got too good of a thing going to let something like this bring them down, because they do hit on a lot of the cylinders. They do check a lot of boxes for wrestling fans, and to see something so silly like this wind up, bringing them down or affecting their business negatively is not what you want. So Tony Khan, put your big boy pants on and tell these fuckers who's boss. That's what you got to do. Is it a work? Don't you love that? Everybody wants to know, is it a work? It's a work. When has something, let me ask people this. When has something that is clearly not a work ever turned out to be a work? Never. The Cody shit wasn't a work. The MJF shit wasn't a work. This isn't a work. However, much like the MJF shit, this could be turned into one. There's no way this was a work between Punk and Hangman Page, because if that was the case, we would have had a lot more hints and, a lot more, we would have seen this thing coming more. This was so out of left field that you knew right away that was an unscripted, planned moment. Once you heard that, you're like, yeah, it had to be, because that's just not what you do. I also, like we talked about earlier with the MJF stuff, working the boys is not something you really want to do if you're Tony Khan either. Now, Eric Bischoff did also do this a little bit in WCW. They did work some of their talent sometimes, and that's a terrible habit to get into, and I just don't think Tony Khan would be that dumb. I understand that you have to keep things secret. Sometimes you don't want things getting leaked, so returns and whatnot, you got to kind of keep tight-lipped. That's fine. You're not working anybody by just shutting your mouth. But when you're trying to pretend that something is what it's not to the people that are behind the curtain, that's where you just don't do those type of things. And I was never of the belief that Cody was a work, and I was never a belief that MJF was a work either, because of all the shit going down and surrounding that. It felt like it was pretty obvious. And now with him coming back, you would hope that him and Tony Khan behind the scenes have reached an agreement, or he's getting more money or whatever, and he's going to come back with a humongous splash. And that was the other piece of news that Meltzer did drop. He did say that MJF will be returning somewhat soon, according to Meltzer. And that could tie into the new TV negotiations, and all of the ratings from September up until that point at the end of the year, or the beginning of the year in 2023, are going to be very important. So they might have something waiting in the wings, a humongous feud or angle to drop at All Out that will carry them into the fall. That's what we really have to hope for here. And I've always been of the belief that MJF would be back. I don't believe Tony Khan would allow him to cut that promo on Dynamite and then go to WWE. As awesome as the promo was with MJF, everything I needed to know, or if I didn't have any questions in my head of whether or not it was a work. But once he cut that promo, I'm like, okay, it's been worked out now. Something happened Double or Nothing weekend. He was pissed. He was almost not going to work the show. Him and Tony Khan came to some sort of an agreement. Tony Khan allowed him to come out on Dynamite the next night and cut that promo. So obviously things have gotten worked out by that point. And he wouldn't let him cut that promo if he didn't plan to bring him back. I'm curious if CM Punk didn't get injured, if MJF would have been back sooner. You think he might have? Especially because it seems like CM Punk is the only guy for MJF to target. He already got his ass kicked by Wardlow. There's no reason to go after him. And like I said, when he was leaving that night after the pipe bomb, CM Punk came out to try to coax him back in. So I feel like MJF and CM Punk would be a great plan for this fall. That's why I really hope the CM Punk drama shit has gotten resolved. That's why I hope he means what he said, what he wrote on Instagram yesterday. I hope that he's truly having the time of his life. I hope that he wants to stay there, and I hope that all this shit gets resolved, because if somebody like Punk, like I've said, I've reiterated this like 3 times in this episode, if somebody like Punk can return to wrestling and have the return that he had as great of a return to wrestling as Ric Flair had a send-off in 2008. It was that good. Then you come in and you beat every single person you feud with, and you win the world title, all within 10 months of being in the company, and you're pissed and you're going to quit and you're disgruntled because Hangman Page made friends with Colt Cabana. I talked about Tony Khan sucking it up, putting his big boy pants on. CM Punk needs to do the same thing. Grow the fuck up, dude. You're a man. You're a grown-ass man. Got a problem with Page? Go backstage and confront him. You're tough, right? You fought in the UFC. Who are you scared of? Deal with it. Don't do it like that. And don't act in such a way that you come off as a bitter, angry, ornery, grumpy dude when you are treated better than anybody else and paid probably better than literally anybody else in the company. I don't know who Punk thinks he is. Does he think he's Brock? Does he think he's Brett? He probably thinks he's more Brett than Brock. But Brock, we've heard plenty of stories about him being pissed off. He even left SmackDown the night that Vince stepped down. There's a guy that's being paid like $10 million a day to stand there and have 2 matches a year, and he's pissed and he's going to leave. So anytime that happens, it's always pretty shocking to me. But, I just hope that on Wednesday we see some sort of a big angle drop. I think the only thing that we're going to see on Dynamite that would concern me is if Punk just flat out loses to Moxley clean. If that happens, that's going to be sad, because that means Punk's probably gone. That probably means that Tony Khan, or at least he's going to not be champion. Tony Khan's going to get his belt back and maybe cut CM Punk and release him. Got to come in on Wednesday, drop the belt. I'll release you with no restrictions. But you got to come at least do that. If that happens, that would blow my mind and be so shocking to me. I cannot imagine that CM Punk would sour on AEW that fast within 1 year. So I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail. When you really read about what the rumors are and why there is heat, this doesn't seem like it's heat that can't be overcome. This doesn't seem like it's heat that can't be resolved. This doesn't seem like it's as bad as Brett and Sean heat. Or 2 people, because we've seen plenty of times in wrestling where 2 people fucking hate each other and they can still work well. Punk and Page do not seem like they have that level of heat between them. This is just something that was said in a promo, happens every single day in wrestling, and could probably be squashed. It's a beef that can probably be squashed relatively easily, unless there's just some really, really sore stuff regarding Colt Cabana there that we don't know about, or that we as fans don't fully understand. So we'll keep our eye on it. That's my thoughts on it. I knew I was going to spend a solid hour talking about the CM Punk AEW Hangman Page drama. There are my thoughts on it. We'll see what happens. Like I said, on Wednesday, it's going to be really, really interesting. I am way overdue, heading over here to the chat, knocking out some super chats and answering some questions and seeing what you guys think about all this. And then we will get into a few other news and notes. And then we're probably going to be wrapping things up in about a half an hour, because we are live 2 hours from now. We're live again in 2 hours to watch SummerSlam 2000. So going to have to give myself a little bit of a break before we do that. And how about this stream running nice and smooth? Told you I figured it out. I just hope that it never returns. I'm scrolling way back here to knock out the super chats that I missed. There were a lot of them. Just want to make sure I don't. Okay, back to Deshaun and how Wheezy. I got you. Welcome to the family, my friend. The next one that I missed was Nathan Hansen. Appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you for the $2. My COVID is gone, but I have a broken arm now. Dude, I'm sorry to hear that. Very happy COVID is gone. That sucked when I had mine. But even more sorry about your broken arm. That sucks. I'm curious how you did that. I have never broken a bone in a major bone. I've broken my toes. I murdered my big toe. One of the gnarliest injuries I've ever had. Just looked like ground beef. Shattered the bones into a million pieces. Toe still doesn't bend. And I've broken a couple of other toes, but I've never broken an arm, never broke a finger, a leg, a foot, nothing. And I'm 45. Nathan, rest up, my friend. Hope you feel better. That sucks. Chris Ludecki, good to see you, man. Appreciate you being here. Welcome back, and I thank you very much for that $10. Hope all is well, Greg. Big news. WWE signed Giovanni Eubanio, which outdoes AEW, possibly signing Paige Van Zant, because Giovanni is a legit jiu-jitsu black belt and hotter. Who do you think is hotter? Now, is this the Giovanni that's recently signed with WWE? I don't know anything about MMA, but I thought her name was something. I thought her name was like Valerie or something. I must be thinking about somebody different. I've never even seen this Giovanni. Anybody that has any sort of like combat experience with the women, I think are good signees to see if they can translate into wrestling, because we got some badasses. We got Ronda, we got Sonya Deville, we got Shayna Baszler, Paige Van Zant is in AEW. But I don't know which one would be better and who's going to translate better into wrestling. I think Paige Van Zant has a lot of potential. She looks like she's made for wrestling. She's got a great look. And she's a badass as well, and I think she could be highly marketable. I don't know much about Giovanna, though. So good for them for picking up another legit female star in WWE. Good for them. But, yeah, I'll have to look into a little bit about who she is, Chris, because I don't know nothing. I didn't know nothing about the UFC. I even laughed last night on Twitter. Everybody was going crazy about some knockout. I'm like, I've never heard of any of these dudes, so I don't know how big of a deal the knockout was, but I've just never really gotten into MMA that deep. But yeah, good for them. And thank you for being here, Chris. Let me see. Dynamite better. Robert Dinkins, Dynamite better get over 1 million viewers this week. I will say that, because I've been talking about how even though Dynamite's ratings could probably be a little bit better, I still think it's good news how remarkably stable they've been. Keeping it, a lot of times they're not over 1 million, but they're really close to 1 million every week. They don't take any huge significant dips. They're usually in that 800,000 to 1.1 million range. But if you're going to do Moxley and Punk this week, you better drop over 1 million. I saw a lot of people too comparing the Jon Moxley and CM Punk match on Dynamite to what WCW did with Bill Goldberg and Hulk Hogan when they announced on Thunder that Goldberg would be challenging for the title on Nitro. They gave you 4 days notice, no build up whatsoever, and they sacrificed what would have been millions of dollars in pay-per-view buys to put that match in the Georgia Dome and deliver to us what did turn out to be one of the greatest moments in wrestling history when Goldberg beat Hogan for the title. But think of how great it would have been if it, would have been at a bigger show or a pay-per-view. I guess they wanted to have it happen in the Dome. That's why I'm glad it was in front of a big crowd. But think about how great that night was with only 4 days notice. Think about how much greater it would have been if they would have built that shit up a little bit. I don't consider this to be the same thing. I think there's a bigger reason behind it. I think WCW did it more for a ratings grab. AEW might be doing it partially for ratings, but I also think it's more likely due to whatever's going on behind the scenes with CM Punk. So I don't really find the situation similar because CM Punk and Moxley also have an ongoing issue. So doing it on Wednesday is just moving up the already planned match. Hogan and Goldberg had no planned match. It's not like it was planned for pay-per-view and they moved it up and bumped it to Nitro. You didn't even know the two were on the same wavelength. I mean, Goldberg was getting his streak going and he had the U.S. title, but they weren't really indicating yet, I don't think, that he was going to challenge for the title. J.J. Dillon just punched us in the mouth with that. So kind of like how Excalibur did on Wednesday, but I still don't consider them to be very similar situations, but they better get over 1 million views. Anything under 1 million this Wednesday for the Punk and Mox match is going to be a disappointment. Nick Mussert's up, dude. Appreciate the $5 from you. I think MJF returns Wednesday and causes a DQ, leading to a triple threat at All Out. Maybe MJF wins the title. I kind of laid out that same scenario after we were talking about that. That is a very likely possibility. There's only one possibility, honestly, that I don't want to see, and that's just Punk getting squashed by Moxley or just getting beat by Moxley clean. I would love it if Moxley won the titles. I think Moxley's great. And personally, I think I like him a little bit better than CM Punk, perhaps, and I think the locker room does too. It's not that I don't want Moxley champion. It's just if he beats CM Punk, that tells me that the situation has not gotten any better, and CM Punk's probably going to leave. So I don't want to see that happen. MJF turning up, though, getting in the middle of that and causing some sort of shakeup for All Out would be sweet. You had to have thought that after his promo, after Double or Nothing, All Out would be a good spot to bring him back. Have him take the summer off and then come back right at the beginning of the fall or the beginning of September and start fresh after that. So it's very likely. Spectra, appreciate $5 from you, my friend. Hey, Greg, just hopping in. Fighting a migraine, so probably won't stay. Sorry to hear that, man. Off topic, you said you played old video games. Have you ever played Doom? I might have played Doom, but I don't have much recollection of Doom. Is that an NES game or is that a Sega game? It kind of sounds familiar. I think I have played it, but I don't have many recollections of it or many memories of that one at all. But no, I got a pretty good little NES collection back there. I got a Sega Genesis. I got a NES Mini, Atari Flashback, Retron 5. Got a lot of stuff for my old school gaming. Haven't turned it on, though, in quite a while. I haven't played any Marios or nothing in forever. How easy. Thanks for all those emojis. I got to be adding my emojis, but adding more emojis, but I was working on all the technical difficulties and the troubleshooting this weekend that I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Who is next? Klofik, CHF, or Klofik C, thank you for that super chat. I'm not sure what currency that is, but thank you very much. CM Punk demanding an apology from Page during his promo made him a chicken shit heel in my book, because what badass face would ever ask for an apology? That's right. I kind of forgot that Punk did demand that Page apologize to him or whatever. So yeah, that is a chicken shit. I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I think Punk gave Page his receipt, but I think the way the whole angle was structured was to try to get Punk over as a heel anyway. And at this point, he's been back for a year. Maybe he wanted to be a face for a year to get that, to give the fans something to be happy about and cheer for him, but then as that honeymoon ends, he can start his second year in the company being a heel, and being a heel that only CM Punk can be. We all know how good he can be as a heel, and based on everything we've read this week, it's probably best that he's a heel at this point because many fans are not happy with what they're hearing about him. So go heel that's my advice. Stone Cold 10X, thank you very much, man, for the $5. Crazy times going on in AEW. Thanks for staying on top of it. Man, I'm trying to. I didn't stay on top of it yesterday. I got defeated by technical difficulties. I'm still mad about it, but I'm happy that today has worked out. I'm thrilled that we've had a consistent stream. There does not looks like there's going to be any more problems, because that means I can kick back and relax and watch SummerSlam with you guys in just a couple of hours. Who else did I miss? Jimmy Fingers, 19. Thank you for adding the 19 cents to that very generous $20 super chat. I hope Punk is working everybody, Greg. Look at us talking about a floundering AEW. I think Punk is not ready for All Out, so he loses title with outside help from Hangman. Mox wins, MJF storms the ring, MJF, Mox, Hangman at All Out. That's not a bad idea either. One of the things that I speculated on when the match was first made was that maybe Punk's not healthy. Maybe he's healthy because he got to still be cleared to wrestle, but maybe he's just not 100%, and he's just not going to be ready for a full-time world champion schedule for a couple of more months. So they're going to put the belt on Moxley to allow Punk to finish healing and resting up, and then he can come back in November and be balls to the wall, come back as a heel. That's very possible. So if he's not ready, he loses on Wednesday. Mox is now your champ. Hangman can get involved in that if they so choose to put him involved. It feels like you kind of have to now. How is CM Punk going to call out Hangman on TV last week, and then Hangman has no response next week? So you feel like this could be worked out. And that's why when it comes to everything being a work, if anybody would work the boys, I think CM Punk might, but I still don't think this is a work. I think this has turned out, I think this is a real situation that hopefully will be turned into a work, because if you can get Hangman out there and get Hangman involved in that, I've even pitched a couple of weeks ago before all this happened, I pitched Colt Cabana coming out and attacking CM Punk. I'm like, we haven't really heard anything about their relationship. Maybe they've buried the hatchet behind the scenes and we don't even know about it, and they're just waiting for the right time to have Punk attack Colt or Colt attack Punk or something like that. The fans, the internet fans, the behind the scenes fans would lose their shit if that happened. But Jimmy, your suggestion for Wednesday certainly shouldn't be ruled out, because I think that's a real possibility for sure on Wednesday. Two more from you, $2 more and 19 cents from Jimmy Fingers. And yes, MJF wins the title. Punk disappears to heal up. Right on. I'm a man. I'm 40. Man, I wish I was 40. I'm about to be 45 in 2 weeks, y'all. Halfway to 90. Shit. Max Pokebra 27, thank you so much, dude, for the $2, and thanks for being here. CM Punk heel, and he shakes hands with Tony Khan. He does. All right, I think that catches up all the super chats. There's a rumor that WWE released Jeff Jarrett. I wonder why. I haven't seen that today. Yes, Trish Stratus does return tomorrow. I do want to let you guys know, too, we are going to be here doing a Raw review tomorrow night after Raw, because it is in Toronto. Edge and Damian Priest are set for that, and Trish is returning as well. And like I said, we're also going to be here Wednesday for the Dynamite Watch-Along. The links to all this shit's already up. So if you go to my channel, you can see Monday's Raw review right on the podcast playlist. Save that for Monday. Go down to the AEW Dynamite Watch-Along playlist, and it's right at the top of the list there. Wednesday's live reaction of Punk and Moxley. It should be something. Let's get into a little other wrestling news now before we kind of wrap things up here in the next few minutes, since it's been heavy, very heavy on the CM Punk AEW stuff. We also need to talk about NXT UK. It's done. They have released a massive amount of wrestlers, including Trent Seven, who I think has been there since the beginning. And they have basically scrapped scrapped NXT UK. They're going to run their final show the same day as AEW's All Out, which is interesting because Clash at the Castle was the day before. WWE never ran on Labor Day before. All of a sudden, now they're running two shows. I wonder why. But the reason for scrapping NXT UK was a rumor that we kind of heard. We just had it wrong this week when we saw Tyler Bate show up on NXT, kind of spoiling that he's going to win the tournament of this final show that's going to air the day of All Out or something like that, whatever they got going on that show. And they kind of, or no, I'm sorry, it's going to be Tyler Bate and Braun Breaker. But they did spoil him winning the tournament to win the title because I think Ilya Dragunov had to forfeit the title due to injury. Do I have that right? I'm not very privy to the NXT UK scene. But they closed down the brand and then released everybody, and they plan on taking a hiatus from the brand to strategize their relaunch of NXT Europe, which will be coming sometime in 2023. However, they released a shit ton of wrestlers. So we kind of thought all of the NXT UK talent was going to be either used for the new brand or sent to, or it was going to be used for NXT because there's a draft coming up and we might see a lot of NXT talent moved up to the main roster. So maybe they're going to use the NXT UK talent to supplement that. I think there are some people like Dragunov, like Tyler Bate, who are obviously not going to go anywhere, but the rest of the talent has basically been released. And if WWE really planned on launching NXT Europe in early 2023, I don't think they would have released this talent. So this tells me they have no plans yet for actually launching this. It's still all coming together, and it could be very late in 2023, maybe even 2024, before any of this happens with NXT Europe. So best of luck to all the released talent. Hopefully they can resume their indie lives and their indie work, because prior to WWE coming in and launching NXT UK, the UK indie scene was thriving, but WWE put a hit on it. So did the Speaking Out, or the Me Too movement, did a number on the indie scene over there as well. But hopefully all of the released talent in WWE can now go find work until they potentially come back and work NXT Europe, or maybe turn up in AEW, or just work the indies. Best of luck to everybody there. It was a lot of names. Only about 4 or 5 I recognized. Everybody else were, NXT UK names, because I don't really follow NXT UK. I barely follow regular NXT. All I know is they named him Braun Breaker. So we will see about NXT Europe. Sad day, though, for all of those released talents. Some of them have been with NXT UK since the very beginning. So best of luck to all of them. Speaking of NXT, Shawn Michaels has been promoted by the company. He has been promoted to Vice President of Talent Development Creative, whatever the fuck that means. So it's something to do with NXT, obviously. Shawn Michaels does great work there. As a fan, it's great to see Shawn Michaels having a role like this in WWE after all of his years as a performer there, all of his problems, all of his issues. Just to see him there as an old man who is coaching people warms my heart. I cannot tell you how happy I am to see Shawn Michaels there. I'm still pissed off that Shawn Michaels has blocked me on Twitter for some reason. I think it's messed up, because he should know and he should understand how important his career was to me as a fan. And Heartbreak, unblock me. Somebody tag Shawn Michaels. Tell him to unblock me, because I like Shawn. I always have. Also, more contract news to report. AEW is extending 2.0's contract, so the very talented Matt Menard and Angelo Parker will be sticking around in AEW. They are very well liked backstage. I love them in NXT. I got a kick out of Kevin Owens, I think, showing up on Raw with an Everrise shirt, which was great. And they do great work in the Jericho Appreciation Society, and they are very great sports entertainers. They do a great job. Love those guys. I caught Charlotte on Broken Skull Sessions the other night. Did you guys see that? It aired on Friday. And I didn't make a ton of notes on it, but I did watch the entire hour and 20-minute episode. And I got to say, I think it's been one of my least favorite Broken Skull Sessions to date. I thought it was going to be much more interesting than it was. Now, Charlotte did go into a lot of detail about her personal life, her early life. They chronicled and detailed how she got into the business, the very sad circumstances surrounding her brother Reed, and of course his death. A lot of stories about Ric Flair. But, Charlotte has already got such a bad reputation with the fans. I was hoping that this appearance on Broken Skull Sessions would, maybe humanize her a little bit, or maybe some, because I think fans are way too hard on her. I understand that WWE overpushes her, overexposes her, shoves her down our throats. She even herself on the podcast alluded to that, alluded to overexposure and things like that, which definitely does happen to her. And she talked about how pissed off the fans were that she was added to that WrestleMania 35 main event. And she talked about some of her heat, but I was hoping that when fans would see this, they would say, yeah, Charlotte's not such a bad person. She's nice. She's funny. She seemed uncomfortable on the show. Apparently, she did have some traveling issues getting there, which they referenced, but it wasn't, she just felt like a little bit not relaxed. She was having trouble. We all had 2 weeks ago on this podcast, I hated the podcast. I was just really kind of amped up. I was wired. I had work going on later. I had a lot on my mind. I was stumbling my words. And when I was done with it, I'm like, that was a terrible show. So we all have those days. So maybe Charlotte was just there. She was tired from the travel. There was a lot of these like dramatic, like long pauses between the two where Austin didn't really know what to say. And it just didn't feel like it followed the same flow that some of the other ones did, where they kind of go through each bit or each little portion of the person's career and they show a lot of clips and highlights. And they did show a lot of Charlotte stuff, but there was a whole lot that they left out as well. Charlotte still came off, very nice. She said great things about a lot of the talent that she's worked with. She did address the Becky drama, although she didn't really get into it. She said she respected Becky for having the kid and being able to have that and still maintain her career, and referenced that she would like to, and alluded to the fact that she'd like to have that herself. They talked about her wedding to Andrade. She talked about how great being married to Andrade is. All of that stuff was great. There was just something about this one that felt off. I didn't love the Sasha Banks one either. Becky was, and I didn't love Becky's. I think, did they do Bayley? They might not have done Bayley. But I just didn't really like Charlotte's that much. So if you've seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. It's short, only an hour and 20 minutes long. But in terms of what they got into and discussed, I don't know. I guess I was just expecting more out of this one. So check out Charlotte on BSS. But of all the Broken Skull sessions, this one I think is my least favorite. Sorry, Charlotte. I do have your back most times. I do think fans are idiots for shitting on you so hard. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are. But in this case, I don't know. This episode didn't do a whole lot for me. Let's see what else we have to get into here before I wrap up the podcast. I want to talk a little bit about last week's Dynamite, other than the Punk and Moxley stuff. Rating this week was just under 1,957,000 for a .30 in the share. We also, on Dynamite last week, we saw that great 2 out of 3 falls match with Danielson and Garcia. So we had Daniel taking on Bryan, which was kind of cool. And Danielson got the win in the 2 out of 3 falls match. After the match, Danielson tries to handshake Daniel Garcia because it was a phenomenal match, a really fun, great wrestling match. What more can you ask for on a Dynamite, And after they have this great encounter, Danielson goes for the handshake. It looks like Garcia is going to accept, until Jericho, who was doing commentary during the match, jumped off headset, attacked Danielson, and Garcia looked to be visibly pissed. Now, of course, this was the House of Dragons episode, so we had the Dragon Slayer, Daniel Garcia, taking on the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, and we had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as the guest timekeeper in this as well. So as Jericho attacks Danielson, Garcia looks visibly pissed about this, and we might see a defection. I've thought all along, ever since Garcia joined JAS, that he was more suited for Blackpool Combat Club. So maybe we're going to get a defection here. And I also feel like we're going to see Jericho and Danielson at All Out. I feel like that's what they're building towards here. And a really cool backstage interaction with Ricky Steamboat and Jericho as well, referencing their 2009 feud in WWE. Was I the only one that found the Gun Club shit weird? The Ass Boys squashed Varsity Blondes, and then after the match, the Ass Boys turn on their dad. They beat up Billy until the Acclaimed comes out and makes the save. Ass Boys run away. They help up Billy Gunn, and they do the scissor me daddy thing, and Billy Gunn's like having the time of his life. He does not seem like a guy who just got betrayed by his own flesh and blood. His 2 sons, who he's trained and raised for the last, 25 years each or however old they are, they turn on him, attack him, physically assault their father, and 90 seconds later, he's laughing and smiling and hugging 2 other guys. Billy, those are your sons, bro. Be a little bit more distraught over that, Kenny Omega made his return as well. So great to see Kenny wearing a full body brace. Don't know what that shit was. The shoulder thing and the other thing he had on all over his body. They kind of were telling the story here that Kenny is not 100%. Wasn't able to pull off a couple of his signature moves and looked like he struggled to do a couple more, and even made a social media post after the match that he will continue to work hard to get better, and I think we're going to see him slowly shed the braces and start being able to do more and more moves as we go. And they did, of course, advance. Kenny was the mystery partner for the Young Bucks in the trios match against Andrade, Rush, and Dragon Lee, and a great match, by the way, and they now advance in the tournament to hopefully take on Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. I don't think they've had their match yet, but if they do, they need to win that so we can get that match in the semifinals. But you knew it was going to be Kenny. The minute Justin Roberts was handed that piece of paper, you're like, oh, hell yeah, because he's going to run through all of the awesome intro he does for Kenny Omega. Rampage on Friday was okay. We saw Dustin Rhodes answer Claudio Castagnoli's open challenge, so next week we're going to get a Ring of Honor title match between Claudio and Dustin Rhodes. That's kind of cool. Dustin even talked about their history and how Claudio just won his first world title, and that's an accolade that Dustin has not yet gotten. So we'll see if Dustin pulls that off next week. I don't think he will. Swerve in Your Glory, or whatever their name is, Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, retained the AEW Tag Team titles over Private Party. Buddy Matthews defeated Serpentico, and after the match, Miro attacked Buddy Matthews, when he came out holding Malachi Black's mask. So it looks like Miro got to Malachi and took out Buddy Matthews, and that whole angle has been pretty fun to watch. And Hook, Handsome Hook, defeated Zach Clayton by submission on Friday as well. Here's what we got for All Out so far. We know we're going to get some sort of an AEW title match, at least one would assume, at All Out. We also have Thunder Rosa defending the AEW Women's title against Toni Storm. We're going to have the finals of the AEW Trios Tag Team title tournament, and they announced on Rampage there would be another casino ladder match at All Out as well. So only 4 matches added to that. I want to briefly run through SmackDown, and then we're going to get out of here because a big match happened on SmackDown that was added to Clash at the Castle, and I want to run through that. The Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns promo on SmackDown was really good. For some reason, I'm just liking Drew's energy since Vince has been gone. Drew's always been high energy. I've always thought that Drew puts forth a lot in his promos, and he's always there to work no matter what. There just seems to be a little bit of an extra pep in his step with Triple H now at the helm, and I really enjoyed the promo that McIntyre, of course, had this past week on Monday, which was great with Kevin Owens, and then even on Friday, he had Roman back down because Roman had no bloodline with him. There was no Paul Heyman with him, and Drew said, you're not as strong as you think, and you're vulnerable without your boys. And then, of course, the two of them come to blows. They start fighting. Drew McIntyre goes for the Claymore on Roman, and Sami Zayn dives in to take the bullet, which was great. And Roman wound up getting Claymored anyway when Drew McIntyre countered a spear. So the issue between those two has been pretty good. That should be a good match at Clash at the Castle. We've been waiting for this rematch since Survivor Series that time. So it is more than time for Drew and Roman to revisit their issue. Speaking of Sami Zayn, he got a remarkable response in Montreal on Friday. Great ovation for him as he came up short in the Fatal 4-Way. This was a match to see who would face Gunther for the Intercontinental title at Clash at the Castle, and Sheamus came out of this match as the winner, which is awesome because now we have Sheamus and Gunther. And to me, that's a match that Vince wouldn't have even thought of, but it's going to be a match that's going to be crazy stiff. These guys are going to beat the shit out of each other. And as much as I was hoping that Sami Zayn would win, I'm really glad Sheamus did because I think Sheamus and Gunther will be fun. All kinds of fun. And what about the El Generico reference by Michael Cole in that match? Super interesting. We had an advancement in the tag team title tournament, the women's tag team title tournament. Toxic Attraction defeated Natalya and Sonya to advance. It was supposed to be Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark, but Zoe Stark got injured on the NXT Heatwave show, so she was replaced. At least that's what they're saying on TV. I didn't even see her injury on Heatwave, so I don't know if it was a work or not. There was some talk that maybe it had something to do with Nikita's vaccination status or whatever, but I think it was more because of Zoe Stark's injury. Toxic Attraction, who should have been the team all along, got put in their place, and they defeated Natalya and Sonya. Bayley and her friends and Dakota Kai and Io Sky were at ringside, bought a ticket, and sat there on the other side of the guardrail and were just talking smack the whole time to everybody. They were fun. The Maximum Male Models and Hit Row segment was pretty fun. Maximum Male Models is over. Hit Row is not. Hit Row wound up beating them up and disposing them and then decided to rap. Yeah. WWE, let's never do that again. Hit Row, no. Never, never, never again. Please stop that. We also saw the Viking funeral for the New Day. I think Sarah Logan is back. Who was that chick with her back turned with the hair? I think that's Sarah Logan. It would be cool if she was back permanently and if she joins them as part of the presentation, like a Viking Team Extreme type of thing, and have Logan be a part of that. That would be great to see Sarah Logan back. I know she's recently had a baby. I know her and what's-his-face are married, and maybe they're able to bring her back in now. That's great. Sarah Logan was always well-liked, I think, as well, even though she might have been climbing some fences on January 6th. I don't know. Don't care either. She might be back. The new Viking experience or whatever. Again, they're going to be better off with Triple H, but they have just been dead in the water ever since they got to the main roster, in my mind. They've been feuding with the New Day for a while, and we'll see where that goes. But the biggest news coming out of SmackDown was that Sheamus is now going to face Gunther at Clash at the Castle, and here's what we have for the Clash. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre for the undisputed WWE titles, plural. Liv Morgan defending the SmackDown Women's title against Shayna Baszler. Oh, incidentally, on SmackDown on Friday, Ronda was arrested, so she's still not being let back in the building. Eventually, she's going to get involved in Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler's deal, possibly even Shayna, if Shayna beats Liv Morgan at Clash at the Castle, which I hope she does. We also have the big 6-woman match, Bianca Belair teaming up with Asuka and Alexa Bliss to take on Bayley, and likely the two new women's tag team champions, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. I believe that tournament wraps up prior to Clash, right? Help me with that, guys. Also, Riddle taking on Seth Rollins and Sheamus versus Gunther. On paper, it ain't too shabby, especially the men's matches. Riddle, Rollins, Sheamus, Gunther, Roman, Drew. Great stuff. I'm really going to love it if Shayna Baszler wins the title. And the 6-woman will be great, but it's just going to be a 6-woman. So we'll see what else they add to this, if we get a U.S. title match or some more matches added on Monday. But the card for the Clash in Cardiff is looking pretty good, and I'm excited to watch that. I have to get up, I think, at 10 o'clock in the morning to watch that. Greg time. But I'm going to do it, and we're going to do a review of it. So that is pretty much it for my notes. I do want to get out of here because I want to eat a little bit of food and just rest up for an hour before I pop right back up here in front of your faces and we watch SummerSlam 2000. But let me cruise over here to the chat. Valerie Loretta, thank you for that transferring heat. So she's not the same person I'm thinking of, or she's not the same person as that Giovanna person that was mentioned earlier. So yeah, I just don't know much about MMA and jiu-jitsu people. Or Jay Lambo happened on January 6th. I don't know. Sarah Logan might have been climbing some fences. I don't know. That's all I heard. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. See if I missed any other ones. Here we go. Let me knock out these final super chats before I bail out. Nick Musser, thank you very much, dude, for the $5. What if it's a fatal 4-way? Crazy, but doable. Mox, Punk, MJF, and Hangman at All Out. It is crazy, but it is doable. That's what I think. If they have hot-shotted some angle for Wednesday to get the all-out match set, it could be a number of things. It could be a triple threat. It could be a fatal 4-way. It could be another one-on-one. Who knows what they're going to do? Or it could just be a schmaz and a rematch. But if you're going to do Punk and Mox, I wouldn't do it on Dynamite and then do it again at All Out, right? You would just do it at All Out. So that's why I don't think Punk and Mox are going to face it All Out. I don't think they're going to face twice. I don't think they're going to face one-on-one on Wednesday and then one-on-one at All Out. There's got to be something happening there. There can't not be something happen. You know what I mean? Them lights are going to go out, I think, on Wednesday. I think there's a really good chance that the lights will go out in that main event. For sure. Oh, good. Tennille Dashwood, Emma leaving Impact. Charlotte brought up Emma a couple times on the Broken Skull Sessions because she was a really big part of that. Paige and Emma and Natalya and some of those early NXT women that really, set the tone for what would become, the women's division. And I was not aware she was in a relationship with Madcap Moss. Good for them. I think Braun Breaker and Cora Jade are hanging out. That's good. Good for them. Wish all the couples the best. I've always liked Emma, and I'm glad if she's going to be coming back. That would be great. Helmsley at the helm. Hunter Hurst at the Helmsley. That's what we should call him. Did that catch up my super dupers? I think we're good on the super chats there. I think we're good. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys, now. I want to take about an hour and 15-minute break to put some food in my belly and regroup for the SummerSlam 2000 stream. I want to thank you guys again for making my day. I just was not going to be able to rest unless I came up and got this podcast done. I was so annoyed about what happened yesterday, but in a lot of ways, it's good that it happened because it forced me to deal with the issue. And now I feel like we are good to go. I've got the latest versions of everything. We got strong equipment, best internet money can buy. I think we're going to be good to go from now on, and we should have no issues with the watch along later. So thank you again for your patience. Thank you to all of you. It was a pretty good audience today, considering that I was basically coming up here unannounced and I had to cancel the shit yesterday. So really happy with you guys being here. Thank you for all the good engagement in the chat. And for those of you who want to kick back and watch classic WWE pay-per-view later on, 1 hour and 22 minutes from now, we're going to go live to watch WWE SummerSlam 2000. I was there in the building that night in Raleigh to watch one of the best shows I've ever seen live. It was a lot of fun. So we're going to be watching that later on. I will catch you guys in just about an hour. Thank you again for being here.